But let's get over to some power rating movers after week 5. If you want to give a couple teams that you downgraded the most after week 5 here, what do you got?
Oh, Cleveland, I lowered 3 points. I
Oh,
said, that's it. I make Cleveland 4.5 worse than an average team. I really think that the Browns are done, though. So they absolutely free fell downward. I brought Carolina down a point, and just glancing, those were the big movers. I try not to ever downgrade anyone too much in my numbers, but those were the two that really fell.
Cincinnati obviously loses in overtime there. Their playoff hopes are now down to 6%, give or take here after starting 1-4 here. They haven't won a home game yet, 0-3. They're 0-3 in the conference. They have a slew of division games coming up. Obviously, this week 5, they had Baltimore going up to overtime. But again, we talked about how bad the Carolina Panthers defense has been, Fez. I think Cincinnati Bengals are into that conversation as well, because I think you and I talked about it after week 1 that wrist injury was something that was lingering for Joe Burrow. That doesn't look like the case anymore. I mean, him and Jamar Chase, and then since they got T. Higgins back, at least offensively, they've been able to put up numbers, but defensively, this team has just not been able to stop a nosebleed, honestly, Fez. Did you move them in your power ratings, or did you have them, just stay put?
I had him stay put. I don't think Burrow plays defense, does he? Last time I
Unfortunately,
checked.
not. I mean, he's not
Yeah,
something that.
maybe he should. Maybe they bring him in at safety because obviously that's the problem. That was a tough loss against Baltimore. Um, you could say that Cincinnati was right there, but classic Plinko.
Yeah.
Baltimore could argue they got unlucky to lose if it would have if the Bengals would have won. If you look at the stats on that game, both defenses lost. Baltimore put up over 500 yards, but the Bengals 442. So
Mm-hmm.
just an absolute shootout.
Any teams that you upgraded in your power ratings? Are we continuing to move up the Minnesota Vikings, or I mean, they exceeded expectation according to the spread, but I mean, that's a team right now that offensively and defensively looking good. I know Sam Darnold had some turnovers there across the pond, but that defense has been an absolute monster led by Brian Flores.
Minnesota and Washington, every week they get an upgrade, it seems. So Minnesota, I've got my number 5 team, 3.5 better than average, only a point and a half behind Kansas City right now. And I've got Washington. They cracked the top 10, 1.5 points better than an average team. And I got to tell you, sometimes I think that Washington Cleveland game, it was interesting because obviously Washington was only laying 3 in that game. And if they replayed that game, my power ratings would make the game 7.5.
Wow. All right, Fez. Anything else from week 5 you want to mention or get off your chest?
Oh, just the parity in the NFL is just tremendous. We're seeing all these underdogs cover,
Yeah.
and the reason is that there's no elite team. The best team in the league is Kansas City, and they're just barely. I mean, there's the difference between the number 1 KC and number 7 Philly. Philly's getting healthy, so I bumped Philly big time in my power ratings. 2 point difference in the top 7 teams. Any of these teams could win the Super Bowl. And heck, for all we know, I mean, Houston and Washington certainly have the potential to jump higher.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to turn this into a Texans podcast, but the offense has looked a little bit shaky. I mean, not really living up to expectation. Now their top receiver, Nico Collins, is now officially week to week with a hamstring injury there, so they may be down their number 1 wide receiver, at least entering week 6 here, maybe even further for the Houston Texans. So something to keep an eye on going into week 6 for the Houston Texans. They will be taking on one of the worst teams in the New England Patriots. All right, before we get over to some Vegas talk here, let me tell everyone to make sure to get over to pregame.com and make sure you guys use that promo code FEZ15. That's FEZ15. That will get you $15 off of anything for listeners of this Fezzik Focus podcast. And we've said this, hey, maybe you want to get a weekly package, a monthly package, but we always want to talk about getting a season-long package here, whether it's with Fez, whether it's with AJ Hoffman, any other hot handcappers right now. NBA season is around the corner. I'm sure Mackenzie Rivers is going to have his picks package up as well. But we mentioned it last week. Fez had a down week, but there was no doubt in my mind. I said the odds at minus 1,000 that Fez was going to bounce back this week for his clients, and he did that. Fez, anything